We move now to the 5.0 magnitude earthquake in northeastern Iran. 4 people are now known to have died. The number of injured is as high as 120. The quake occurred on Tuesday, shaking the town of Kashmir. That's about 800 kilometers east of the capital, Tehran. Rescue teams have been deployed to the region and 3 temporary camps have been set up. Red Crescent ambulances took 35 injured individuals to hospitals, while others received outpatient treatment from aid workers. A baby trapped under rubble was rescued, but 2 relatives of the baby did not. Iran sits on major seismic fault lines and experiences earthquakes a day on the average. In 2003, a magnitude 6.6 hit the city of Bam, reducing it to ruins and killing 26,000 people. At least 9 people have died, 15 more missing after torrential rainfall sparked landslides and flash floods in southern China. The country is battling polarizing weather events with severe rainfall lashing southern provinces since Saturday and a severe heat wave causing a drought in the north. In northwest Zhejiang region, 4 people are reported missing after heavy rain caused flash floods engulfing cars and causing widespread destruction. 4 people have died, 2 are missing after landslides in Wuping County in the coastal province of Fujian. Severe downpours started on Sunday afternoon and brought 372.4 millimeters of rainfall over a 24-hour period. More than 35,000 people have been evacuated in Fujian and over 10,000 in Meizhou, a city in Guangdong province, hit hardest by the floods. We're off on a short break now. The World Today still ahead. It's the 3rd annual observance of the Juneteenth federal holiday in the United States. Stay with us. South Korean officials have issued return to work orders for doctors participating in a 1-day walkout on Tuesday as part of a protracted strike against the government's plan to sharply boost medical school admissions. Since February, more than 12,000 trainee doctors have been on strike in a deepening standoff with government, who want to grow the country's number of doctors by up to 10,000 by 2035. Many reject the plan, set to begin next year, saying schools will not be able to handle the increased flow and that the quality of the country's medical services would suffer. During a rally on Tuesday, thousands of doctors in Seoul, amongst them was the hardline leader of the Korean Medical Association, Lim Hyun-taek. He says it would push for members to enter an indefinite strike on June 27 if the government rejects its demands to completely scrap plans to increase medical school admissions. Kim says the country's largest doctors' lobby the Korean Medical Association is the country's largest doctors' lobby with more than 100,000 members. At least 9 people have been killed and injured after a huge fire broke out at an ammunition depot in Chad, causing major explosions. The Foreign Minister Kulamala Abdurrahman confirms the blaze happened at a military depot in the Guji area of the capital in N'Djamena. According to witnesses, the blaze caused weapons to fire into the air and blasts could be heard miles away. President Muhammad Idris Deby sent his condolences to the victims and their families, promising to launch an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the inferno without specifying the number of casualties. More from Africa. Cyril Ramaphosa has begun his 2nd 5-year term as South Africa's president following his inauguration today in Pretoria. It comes despite his party, the African National Congress, being unable to secure a majority in parliament in last month's general election. Many dignitaries, including several African heads of state from Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Pan-African Parliament and more, attended the ceremony they held at the Union Buildings in Tshwane, Pretoria. The oath of office was administered by Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. In his inaugural speech, President Ramaphosa promised to be a president for all South Africans and to work with everyone who's willing to contribute to finding solutions to the challenges facing the country. He adds that voters did not give a single party the full mandate to govern the country alone and have directed politicians to work together to address their plight and realize their aspirations. Lawmakers re-elected him as president last week following a deal with the ANC, between the ANC, its longtime rival Democratic Alliance, and other parties to form a coalition government.
As we enter another era in the life of our nation, the resilience of our democracy has once more been tested, and the people have spoken loudly that they choose peace and democracy over conflict, violence, undemocratic and unconstitutional methods. In their multitudes, in their voices that are many and diverse, the people of South Africa have voted and have made known their wishes, their concerns, and their aspirations. We accept and respect the results of the elections, and once again we say, yes, the people of South Africa have spoken, and we accept. Their will shall be done without any doubt or any question. The voters of South Africa did not give any single political party the full mandate to govern our country alone. They have directed us to work together to address their plight and realize their aspirations. They have expressed their appreciation of the progress in many areas of their lives over the past 30 years of democracy. They have also been unequivocal in expressing their disappointment and disapproval
We're in Kenya now, where the government has scrapped some proposed taxes in this year's controversial finance bill, including a 16% levy on bread after a public outcry. The announcement by MPs came as police fired tear gas and water cannons to try to disperse angry protesters in the capital, Nairobi, on Tuesday. Dozens of people have been arrested. Lawyers earlier joined the protest, chanting with the crowds in the city's main police station, demanding that detainees be freed. Civil society groups say that despite the arrests, demonstrations and a planned sit-down outside the Parliament building will continue. Since coming to office in 2022, President William Ruto has introduced several new and unpopular taxes with the aim of eliminating the country's national debt of nearly $80 billion.
We are crying, and we are really crying. We are really crying as citizens. We are really crying. Drop the finance bill. Drop it. Drop it. It is going to kill us. It is taxing us so much. We don't have anything. We are young boys suffering on the streets. Help us, President. Help us.
Let's bring in Kenyan journalist Cyrus Ombati. He's in Nairobi. Cyrus, did you get a chance to see those protests and, the way they were conducted and the way they were dispersed by the police in Nairobi?
Actually, I will thank you for me the show. I was there. I participated as an observer, as a participant also, because the issues they are raising are affecting us, all of us, because when it comes to taxes, everyone has to pay taxes. So, but the ones which are being now raised is an issue because it's affecting all of us. So, yesterday's protests were different in a way because most of those people came to protest are youngsters. They are Generation Z. They are called Generation Z. They actually mobilized online. They came out in large numbers and they were resistant. They were persistent. It was a different form of a protest which we experienced yesterday in Nairobi. And even today, we had similar protests in Mombasa and parts of Nakuru. and parts of Western Kenya.
Right, and usually protests are hardly anything but peaceful in Kenya, but this one was a legitimate protest. So why did the police become violent?
Well, police, I believe here in Kenya, they have a problem with their training. Maybe they had instructions from above not to allow the protest to go on. Also, it's an issue of command and their past training, which is affecting their performance. And we've had a situation where police are being kind of taught on how to treat such kind of a peaceful protest from the civil away, but it seems they're not getting it right because they were lobbying tear gas to these protesters who are peaceful in a way, but then we don't know what to do now next. We just wait to see what next will happen.
Well, thankfully, there have been no reports of casualties at the end of the protests, even the ones they held today. But, you know, President Ruto, since he came into office in 2022, has introduced several unpopular taxes. Has he ever explained, you know, why this has to happen? Is the Kenyan economy in dire straits?
Well, that's what he keeps citing, that we need to bridge some gap in the budget, national budget he just made, because he says we have a gap of around 100 billion Kenyan shillings, which we need to kind of bridge by increasing these taxes. But then now the problem is it's affecting Kenyans at large. Kenyans are also saying that in as much as he wants to increase the taxes, he himself he has a problem in terms of spending. He's extravagant, he's always traveling all over the world, and as much as they are saying that his travels are bringing in more money. But when you, for example, when you raise the price of fuel in Kenya, it means you're affecting everything in life. Start with transport, electricity, water, all those factors that are affecting the Kenyan price directly. So, in as much as the president and his group is saying that they need to raise this money through the public, it's affecting the Kenyans at large negatively in one way or the other.
Yeah, I can imagine, because Nigeria is also going through a similar thing. You know, these pressures, you know, on the people itself really seems unfair. But then if the economy is you know, the economy still has to pick up. The government has to find a way to pick up, you know, these monies and then, you know, push them into the economy. But what are some of the suggestions that, you know, analysts are providing as an alternative for the government instead of imposing these taxes on the people?
Government spending is the problem. Government spending and corruption. Because when you see the kind of money they are spending on their travel, their entertainment, and I mean, for example, you find that they are putting almost 1 billion Kenyan shillings for renovation of their offices, or to buy cars for travel, or they are putting a lot of money in terms of entertainment, for air travel, and all those which are not, to Kenyans are not necessary. Then there is an issue of corruption, which is still rampant in the government, and it's kind of unabated because no one is taking action to stop the same. So if we address those issues, I believe they will bridge the gap we are talking about.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, you know, if these taxes can be reversed, hoping that the government is listening, because first it was the doctors who went on strike, the health workers who went on strike, and Kenyans suffered for that because many hospitals were shut down. Only those who had the means contracted, you know, private doctors and so on. So is there any hope for the Kenyan people?
Well, personally, yesterday we listened to what they said. They proposed some dropping some clauses in those the bill. But then when the opposition or MPs came out, they said they have removed the one part. They removed A, but then they take A to B. Now you see, for example, they say they are moving and taxes on the cars. They were owning cars. It was actually being taxed annually. But then you find that they have increased the fuel levy. So if you remove A, you increase B. So, and you see all these taxes they are trying to impose are been budgeted for, they have been pushed through. They are trying to bridge the gap, and they are saying it is there. So it's an issue of now that there is ongoing lobbying in Parliament and outside Parliament. Tomorrow there is a protest for that against the bill itself. But then when you look at Parliament, Mr. Ruto has the numbers. So it means that he pushed through the bill the way he wants. The only option we have maybe is to go to court later on when they are part. If they don't listen now. that's the only option we have for now. Maybe a court can suspend one of those clauses or proposals, but then now it's a process. Like it's another 2 or 3 months to come from now, and you see from July those taxes have to be effective. So it's an issue of rushing against time, and we have between today and next Tuesday. That's when they're doing the main voting.
So, Cyrus, people cannot afford bread, meaning that they can't afford even just the basic needs that they have. It's becoming tougher, for people to actually survive in Kenya. What are the alternatives for people apart from bread and other food items and other means of livelihood for the Kenyan people?
It's a challenge to say because. Even if you say you want to rely on the traditional food to survive, transport is expensive. When we bring that food from the rural area to Nairobi for consumption, it's expensive. So it means that even if you are relying on, for example, bananas for your breakfast, for example, it means that even transporting that banana from the rural area to Nairobi, it becomes more expensive. So the same thing applies all over. And remember, even those we're talking about products from the shamba, the land in the rural areas, they're being taxed. They say sugar cane, say maize, or bananas. There's a proposal to tax them. So it means it's going to be more expensive. It's complicated all over.
Complicated everywhere, Cyrus. Thanks again for bringing this to light and for reporting on it. The Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has said his country is committed to joining the BRICS organization, adding that the government will soon begin the formal process. He made this disclosure during an interview in the capital Kuala Lumpur. Mr. Ibrahim also praised trade links with China. He hit out at the dominance of the US dollar and cited the benefits of using local currencies, noting that his country is trying to remain neutral despite years of Western pressure.
We're a bit afraid because the pressure is so strong that you must take the side of the West, otherwise you'll be punished. But now we see, we engage with both, we are friendly with both, and with this, for example, Germany talks about de-risking, so they will contact China, but then they will use the third country and say, okay, you're welcome. So we are fortunate in that sense to become a hub of semiconductor industry. We come up with the chips, and but when they start imposing, we say no, we can't. That's right. We are essentially a neutral country, and America has been an important trading partner all these decades. China is an important strategic partnership now that we are experiencing. Many of my colleagues ask, "Are you sure the Chinese are not imposing or insisting?" Including issues, South China Sea. I say, I don't know about other countries. Of course, I engage with them, but we have not had a problem. So I can't. Why do you expect me to anticipate a problem?
Still ahead on The World Today. We'll be heading back to Asia for the annual Huanmu Dragon Parade, which is wowing visitors in China. Stay with us. Welcome back to The World Today. It's Juneteenth in the United States, a holiday commemorating the end of slavery in the U.S. Just a little history here. In 1863, during the American Civil War, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared more than 3 million enslaved people living in the Confederate States to be free. More than 2 years would pass, however, before the news reached of African Americans living in Texas. It was not until Union soldiers arrived in Galveston, Texas on June 19, 1865, that the state's residents finally learned that slavery had been abolished. The formerly enslaved immediately began to celebrate with prayer, feasting, song, and dance. The following year, on June 19th, the first official Juneteenth celebrations took place in Texas. The original observance included prayer and the singing of spirituals, and celebrants wore new clothes as a way of representing their newfound freedom. Within a few years, though, African Americans in other states were celebrating the day as well, making it an annual tradition. Celebrations have continued across the U.S. into the 21st century and typically include prayer and religious services, speeches, educational events, family gatherings, and picnics. Of course, there's also festivals, music, food, and dancing. The day was recognized as a federal holiday in 2021 when President Joe Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act into law. Juneteenth became the first new federal holiday since Martin Luther King Jr. Day was adopted in 1983. Our correspondent in Washington, Maria Bird, joins us now. Maria, I'm sure you got a chance to attend one of those meetings, one of those gatherings. And if I know anything about U.S. tradition, there was barbecue.
Yes, you are correct. Barbecue is a major U.S. tradition. And as you mentioned, the state of Texas is kind of where this all started. And barbecue, they are the home of barbecue here in the United States. And so this celebration was, as you mentioned, just a few years ago made a federal holiday. And so this is really a chance for, I think, Americans to reflect on not only the tragedies that existed around slavery, but also a triumphant period for the African American people, a period of time where, all African Americans across the country were able to realize that freedom had been provided. And so I think this is a time for reflection, a time for gathering together with friends and family and loved ones, and to really understand the history, the very challenging history, the horrific history that exists in the United States, but also one that people can say that we're now moving forward, and also a time to understand that as we, obviously, as you all have reported on, race relations in the U.S. continue to be a challenge as we look to why race relations are so important to keep a focal point on. This is a reminding factor of what work still has to be done.
Indeed. And I'm wondering if it is a symbol for other types of freedom for African Americans in the United States. You mentioned the race issue. African Americans have, faced a lot of challenges in the United States, still trying to be equal, to their white counterparts. So is it a symbol of hope, for them that one day they will all be considered equal with everyone else in the U.S.?
You're exactly correct. I think it is a symbol of hope. I think that is one of the best ways to describe what this means, because obviously people, can look at the challenges and feel hopeless. But if you look at the area of hope, and I think that's what many of the commemorative events around the festivals that are occurring, it's a reminder of the history, but most importantly, hope of the future and what has actually occurred. The Emancipation Proclamation is now on exhibit at the National Archives in Washington, D.C. for an extended period of time over the next few days, just to give people a visual of the actual original document that, as you stated, it took 2 years for those in Texas to realize the freedom, but as a reminder of what has occurred and still how much more work is left to be done.
So it is a national holiday, just like Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Does that mean that people got to stay home on Tuesday or today?
Yes, it is a day that people are off of work. Now, unfortunately, with federal holidays, it's really about the government being closed. There are corporations that could still be open, but for the most part, people have heeded to the national holiday, the federal signing of legislation by the president, and they are allowing their employees to be home on this day.
Maria, how does the rest of America feel about commemorating the day? Because I know that for some people, especially African Americans, although it is a symbol of hope, but it's also a reminder of what their forefathers went through before having the freedoms that they have today.
I think that as we're in a voting election season, and we know the right to vote for African Americans was even tested just not too long ago because the Voter Rights Act actually expired. And so I think for African Americans, it's a time to remember, as you said, what the forefathers went through, what their ancestors have been through to fight for equal rights. And so the time is not now to stop and to be complacent, but the time is now to continue, and especially in this voting cycle, to ensure that we are able to vote and that we take advantage of the right to vote.
Well, don't want to keep you from the celebrations today, Maria. I know you have a lot of eating, probably cooking to do. Thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Well, June 19th is also designated as World Sickle Cell Awareness Day. The International Awareness Day is observed annually with the goal to increase public knowledge and an understanding of sickle cell disease, the challenges experienced by patients and their families and caregivers. Well, this year's global theme is Hope Through Progress, Advancing Care Globally. Here in Nigeria, the Sickle Cell Foundation has cared for those living with the disorder for 30 years. It's now sounding the urgency of the situation.
My dear Nigerians, we have a national emergency on our hands. Every year, over 150,000 children are born with sickle cell disorder in Nigeria. Nigeria accounts for 50% of sickle cell disorder births in the world, and the majority of these children die before the age of 5, mostly as a result of poor access to health care. Sickle cell disorder contributes 8% to infant mortality in Nigeria. There are over 4 million people living with sickle cell disorder in Nigeria. Let's compare this with 100,000 in the United States of America. Our alarming statistics are predicted to rise even higher, making sickle cell disorder a national health emergency, which must be handled with the utmost sense of urgency. Sickle cell disorder is not infectious. It is not contagious. It's an inherited condition, an inherited disorder of the blood. Now, the hallmark of sickle cell is pain, excruciating pain, and also shortage of blood that we call anemia in medicine. But then there are severe complications that we also worry about. For instance, stroke in children. People wonder, stroke in children? Yes, there are other complications. As you can imagine, any condition that affects the blood can affect any organ of the body. All these complications tend to lead to untimely death. Again, a major problem in sickle cell disorder. Over 50 million Nigerians are healthy carriers of the sickle cell gene. This means that about 25% of our population can potentially transfer the sickle cell gene to their offspring. There is no denying the fact that everybody in Nigeria, one way or the other, directly or indirectly, is affected by sickle cell disorder. Over the years, Sickle Cell Foundation Nigeria, with the aid of great partnerships, has carried out extensive prevention and comprehensive care and cure programs that have helped hundreds of thousands to alleviate the burden of sickle cell. Our efforts have proffered solutions at a very small scale compared with the enormous scope of the problem that confronts us nationally. We cannot fight this battle alone. This is a war. Sickle cell disorder is a Nigerian burden. It's a national crisis, a national disaster, and let's see it as such. And the only way we can bring it to heel is to come together, all stakeholders, the private sector, government, everyone to synergize and work together so that we bring sickle cell disorder to heal and allow those who have this condition live a pain-free life and contribute meaningfully to the society. We've come a long, long way, but there's still so much to be done, so much ground to cover. Together, we can improve the quality of life of persons living with sickle cell disorder so they can live a normal, productive life and contribute meaningfully to the community.
A pain-free life is possible.
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 Ndụ na-enweghị ihe mgbu ga-ekwe ya omume.
Seneni. Chiwumi Seneni.
A pain-free life is indeed possible. possible. As we end the program today, thousands flocked to the Chinese village of Hijia to participate in the Huanmu Dragon Parade. And there it is, so colorful. An annual event held on the 7th and 8th days of the 5th lunar calendar month, in which villagers dance around the village with a wooden dragon to pray for good weather and peace. They need that. A stunning dragon dance was performed by locals alongside firecrackers displays. Participants were seen gathering while locals dressed in traditional costumes celebrating and playing musical instruments and waving colorful flags. This tradition, which is over 600 years old, is believed to have originated from the dragon boat racing, an ancient Chinese practice. The Dragon Boat Racing Festival itself was inscribed on UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage List in 2009. Always vibrant colors coming from celebrations in China. Thanks for watching The World Today, though. I'm Amarachi Ubani.